Yep, there it goes. Okay.
She's going to live with us. And
There's a car accident on Tequesta Drive.
And actually, the boys are living with us. They just come find
Hauling
us.
dudes.
Internet.
Yeah, I think it's.
So we ended up at Hope Hills.
Oh, what more than otherwise?
But I-
Like disconnected, reconnected. But it
I'll try to
just
get over
popped
it
up.
sometime next couple of weeks, because I want to talk to you a little bit about, I want to talk to you more about Ireland, too. I got a couple of things to talk
Wow,
about.
I don't even know. An actual painter or a? How you doing, Frank?
You're a painter.
You know what's funny is I absolutely hate painting. My mom's an artist though.
She's trying to get here on time.
I hate
Is
painting.
What medium is she in? Like, is watercolor?
She's gonna try to get here on time, she's gonna drop her kid off.
Everything from pottery to bread and butter
If you can stall a little bit,
Kinda like
I think
Key
it'll
West
help.
style.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in here.
Cool.
to canvas, you name it. She paints on floors, all sorts of stuff. She's retired now, but
That's pretty cool.
yeah. So when they moved to Hope Sound, they converted their garage. When we lived out west, she had a huge studio with counts and wheels, and then they converted their garage in Hope Sound.
Where are Hope Sound at?
They're off Gomez, which is a neighborhood called Jupiter Neighborhoods.
Okay. Yeah.
It's one of those mini neighborhoods on the east side of Gomez.
Well, a couple of owns, Perk, Megan and Tom,
Yep.
they're off Gomez too. I'm not sure exactly where. I know that's where they bought.
Okay.
They bought a couple of years ago.
My parents were there about 3 years ago.
It wasn't working. It wasn't working. It was just
Pretty
like
absolutely
disconnected,
crazy.
reconnected.
It was still crazy.
But now
It
it
just
just
wasn't
started
happening.
working again. Yeah, so I love Brad now.
They love it up there though. I do too. One of my favorite restaurants is that,
Possibly. I was gone from my house like.
it's right on that main,
And when I came
I
home,
heard they were
I
potentially
don't know if I
closing,
went out
but
here.
I don't know. It's really good. It's on that main little,
Yeah, no, I could just, everything in my house went out.
downtown
Yeah.
on the road, right?
And I don't
Really
know, it was raining a little bit, but it wasn't like a storm.
At
I
one
know, I know
time,
Pace is moving. They moved.
they
out.
moved,
They moved to Catfish.
they moved north, yep,
Before I could get there, I never tried this. The place is bad.
yeah. But then, the place that has one out west in Jupiter Farms too.
Oh, that's Elizabeth, yeah, the Taylors.
Beach House Cafe,
Yeah,
that place
Beach
is
House
great.
Cafe. But they're only open like.
She is, okay.
They're not open for lunch, are they?
You were not seeing that anymore, is that for the podium over there?
Yeah, I went to the lunch once.
Make it more official. It's good, it's a wrap.
It's not Jack tonight?
Sushi rolls.
Yeah.
Great, you're gonna steal
The
my joke.
outdoor
He said
seating's nice because it's
Aw,
covered. and-
bummer.
they're building a brewery right next door.
They are?
No, they're not.
Oh.
Somebody else's.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're trying to get everything, trying to get that FPL substation.
Lori just,
Hello.
hi, Lori just parked, we're gonna give her a second. Bye, Lori.
Well, I told my wife, other than being on the water, where we're at is probably as nice as it could be, because we've got almost an acre.
Yeah.
Part of it that's for the park. The lot next door to us is for sale, but I don't think it's ever gonna get sold, because 2/3 of it's wetlands. And there was somebody that came out through our, because we started working on the house. Somebody came out through the backyard, they had a soil expert, and they had like a gang of like 4 or 5 people, I guess, who were part of the building company. I talked to the soil guy, and he said, well, the scuttlebutt in the neighborhood is that this thing's virtually buildable, because, and,
Should make a lowball offer on that thing.
well,
Say I'll
they
pay for
bought
a
it,
third of it.
they bought it for 4 years ago for $85,000. And I told my wife, I said, if they would take what they paid for it, I would buy it and replot it.
Yeah.
And just, because I walked, after the big rains and stuff, I was in the backyard, I was looking out, and there had to be 2 feet of standing water.
Really?
Because our lot line went right into the wetland area. And this particular lot has more wetland than like any other lot.
Oh, it's pretty. Like,
It's like a jungle.
it'd be really cool to have that. It's kind of like.
All right, it is 5:34 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is September 21st, 2023, and this is our second public hearing. First agenda item, the village manager will give us a presentation.
Mayor,
Oh,
members of
I forgot roll call. Lori, can I get roll call, please?
Mayor Young,
Here.
Vice Mayor Brandon,
Here.
Councilmember DeAmbra,
Here.
Councilmember Painter,
Here.
Councilmember Sequoia.
Here.
Mayor, members, council, Mr. Snyder was gonna be here tonight. He is sick. He offered to still come in, and I politely declined for him to come. So just a review of some of the dates, key dates, this process, and thankful to council and staff. We started this process back in February. I think we can all reflect back on just the strategic planning meetings and what we hope to accomplish in the coming year. I think this budget will show that, we're on track with those items and hopefully get those accomplished this year. So it all kind of ends with the final budget hearing tonight, September 21st. We had our first budget hearing on September 14th. Just a couple of budget review. We use this as a planning document, financial roadmap throughout the year. Develop a budget with goal providing range of important services to residents. We continue to strive to increase the quality of life for our residents and our visitors. The proposed budget represents a commitment to efficient and effective management of village's many resources while advancing the village council's priority strategic plan and vision. A lot of this stuff from this point forward you guys have seen, but what we're asking for desired outcomes tonight is adopt resolution 2323. The millage rate of 6.4595 represents a 0.1695 millage reduction over last year, and adopt budget totaling $42,579,751 through adoption of resolution 2423. Millage rate decrease with this budget of 2.56%, an overall increase of 26.03% in taxable values. Significant portion of that increase is due to new construction, including sea glass. The homestead property is limited to a CPI or 3% increase, whichever is less. More than 90% of the village residential units have a homestead protection. Non-homestead properties and commercial properties, they're limited to a 10% increase. Interesting, going back to this real quick, as you see, while the village has stayed very consistent over time, and we do have a proposed budget this year to lower it, you'll see the total millage rate over time, it's been significant. It has been down almost every year, starting in 2015. So we anticipate, the total millage rate being down again this year. So I think, the residents will see some of that relief. Budget summary: the proposed total budget represents a $4,532,487 increase over last year, mainly due to water utility funds and infrastructure improvements. The general fund increased 8.1%, mainly due to capital projects, street maintenance, funding for construction for Remembrance Park, 2 additional firefighters, and as you guys know, 6.3% health insurance increase and a 41% casualty and property insurance increase. Just a pie chart showing where our revenues come. As you'll see, 66% of our revenue comes from the property tax. Breakdown of our expenditures, you see it's pretty balanced, but a significant portion is salaries and wages and employee benefits. If you add those two together, those are a big portion of our expenditures. General fund, this is a slide that we've been showing for the last, since I've been here. It's just the general fund and the balance, the fund balance reserve that we have. You see in green in 22, the council really set an initiative to increase that to a 3-month fund balance reserve. Before that, it was just a 2 months. So taking that difference, projected at the end of 23, we're projected to be $148,000 short of the 3-month operating. I anticipate that number to be a lot closer to, and maybe even be over our 3-month operating reserve. So time will tell when we get the audit and we go through that audit process. Close out the books for this year. The building fund, we had budgeted $1,187,970, projected $608,000 for revenue. We have some interest earnings. The proposed usage is $564,000 out of our fund balance reserves. I will show a slide here just showing that our fund is still healthy in the building fund. The expenditure breakdown there, we do have 2 capital projects, one being a truck and then another being an emergency generator that will help stand up the building department if we do hit any kind of emergency situation or storm related. So this is a very similar slide that we saw with the general fund, but it's the building fund, and so you'll see that we are projecting $551,000 over our unassigned fund balance, our target. So we still are looking very healthy for that, and we do have a couple large projects that are in the works, so we anticipate, increasing that fund balance. Other governmental funds, we'll start with the capital improvement fund. So this 301 fund, and we always, just to try to straighten these out, we have 301 fund, we have a 303 fund. The 301 fund is just the capital, the surtax fund, which is the 1 cent sales tax and the utility tax. So we start a balance of $794,000 in '23. With our revenues and expenditures, we're going to be using a fund balance of $481,000, which will leave us with $312,515. Some major projects that are in this fund is the park improvements, which is the matching fund for the state. If we don't get any appropriations requests, we don't use that. So we'll keep that in mind. I know that the mayor will be going to the Martin County delegation early next month. We hope to really try to push that initiative. Sidewalk, path and sidewalks, $170,000. Constitution Skate Park, $175,000. Tasers, and then the cardiac monitors, Old Dixie, which we'll bring to council when we get to that point in the future with that design, and then a couple other miscellaneous items there. 303 fund. This is the fund that we use and we transfer from the general fund into this fund for capital projects. The ones that are lined out are the 5-year road project, which is the 24 year for that, which is $710,000. We have set aside for roads next year. Remembrance Park, and then we commit the $124,000 for half of the fire service with Palm Beach County, the revenue that we receive from that. It's a pie chart with that capital improvement. You can see kind of the breakdown of each department. And then, you guys have seen this. I know we took a deep dive in the many council discussions we've had for budget. This is our 5-year capital improvement plan that we approve. And it'll have the building fund as a general fund, water fund, and stormwater. We have a separate capital improvement plans for each fund. The water utility fund, we are projecting an 8.5% increase that was approved, and a $10 capital facilities charge. We begin the year with $6 million. You will see that we will use $605,000 of that position in our fund balance to help with projects and balance the budget. We have a large one, which is the water plant upgrades, is $6 million. The water treatment plant, so you can see the projects. Water main replacement is $3 million. So we have some significant projects that we're going to be taking on this year in this budget process. We'll have an ending net position of $5,504,573 is what we're projecting at the end of the year. Stormwater fund, not as clean as the water fund, but we have $86,000 in there, started 23. At the end of the year, we hope to have an increase of $553 in there, so $86,976. But we are doing some projects in there, so we hope to continue to do that and continue to raise the bar in that fund as we move forward, trying to really stand up some more swell restorations and some more pipelining projects. We do have a rate increase proposed of 5%, which equates to 55 cents a month for single-family homes. Refuse and recycling, projecting $44,843 to start the year with an ending balance. We're going to take $19,000 out of our fund balance, out of that fund, and so we'll have an ending balance of $25,146. As we've talked about before, we will have to make some adjustments as we move forward in the future. We did have an increase of 3.5%, which is part of the franchise agreement we have with Solid Waste Authority. With staff recommendations, we adopt resolution 2323 with a millage rate of 6.4595, represents a 0.1695 millage reduction over last year. Adopt the budget, $42,579,751 through adoption of resolution 2423. So the name of our taxing authority is the Village of Tequesta. Our rollback rate is the millage rate that would bring the same amount of ad valorem tax revenues as prior year adjusted for new construction. The proposed millage rate is 6.4595. The proposed operating millage rate necessary to fund the budget is 12.22% greater than the rollback rate of 5.7560 mils. The additional ad valorem tax will be used to fund 2 additional firefighters, establish a sustainable funding source for street and sidewalk improvements, and fund Remembrance Park, and increase the personnel and benefits. With that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jeremy. With that, I'd like to open the public portion of the meeting. So any member of the public desiring to address the village council on the proposed millage rate or the proposed budget will be given the opportunity to do so. The public is permitted to ask questions prior to the adoption of any motions. Do we have any public comment? Mr. Bradford.
I just noticed in Jeremy's presentation, in the beginning, there was a reference to a village reduction of 2-point-something%. And then at the end, it said 0.16% less. So did I either read it wrong or?
I think one might have been the actual millage rate reduction, and then the other was stating that as a percentage. I think that's what you were doing, right?
That's correct.
Oh, okay, so one was like 2. Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, with that, I will close the public portion of the hearing. Now I'll open the meeting for council input.
Nothing from the last, just saying I'm very proud of this budget. I'm happy to present it to the public.
I will second that.
I'll third it.
Nothing, Mayor. Yep, I agree with that. All right, I will close the public hearing. And I will say that the final millage rate cannot exceed the tentatively adopted millage rate. So moving on to the next item, by motion, the Village of Tequesta should adopt the final millage rate. The motion should be that Resolution 23-23, setting the final millage rate for fiscal year 2023 through 2024 at 6.4595 mils, be approved and adopted. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 23-23, setting the final millage rate for fiscal year 2023 through 2024 at 6.4595 mils?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the final item, by motion, the Village of Tequesta should adopt the final budget. The motion should be that Resolution 24-23, adopting the fiscal year 2023 through 2024 budget, be approved and adopted. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 24-23, adopting the fiscal year 2023 through 2024 budget?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn our budget hearing?
Motion to adjourn the budget hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, and we are going to roll into our second meeting, which is, it is, whoops, what time is it?
Can I have 1 moment? I've got
Yep.
to start the second on.
Sure. Let me know when you're ready. All right. It is 5:48 p.m. It's September 21st, 2023, and this is a village workshop meeting. Lori, can I get a roll call?
Mayor Young,
Here.
Vice Mayor Brandon,
Here.
Councilmember DeAmbra,
Here.
Councilmember Painter,
Here.
Councilmember
Here.
Okay, and tonight we are here to discuss the council vacancy left by Councilmember DeAmbra's resignation. Jeremy, do you have anything to present or add on this?
Not unless you have questions to the backup information, we try to provide the necessary information. I think everybody's aware, we've had conversations of the process, so.
Okay, so just so it's on record, the process, there's kind of 3 paths that council can go down. We could all decide to bring names to the table and appoint someone, we could open it up for application and appoint someone, or we can just leave the seat open until the upcoming March election. As we know, there is one resident has filed to run for seat 1 as of yesterday, I believe. So with that, I will open up for discussion.
I am of the opinion that we should open the seat for take applications, so we can review all of them, and then select somebody. But I do believe that we've got a lot of things happening in the next 4 to 5 months that I think our village residents deserve to have a full and complete council. So, but I would recommend taking applications so we could have a chance to review them.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
You want to give a say?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're welcome to comment.
I'm going to apologize that we have to have the second meeting because of me. No, I think, last year when Councilman Johnson resigned, it did prove challenging at times when we had 4 and, sometimes things could be 2-2. So if I were sitting in all your seats, which I will not be after the end of October, I would say the same thing. I think I would say take applications, look at who the qualified candidates are. I'd also consider, is somebody actually intending, or have they filed, for the next election as well? Because you really don't want somebody who's just going to be here for 4 months. You want somebody who's intent on being here, beyond that period of time. So I would add that little element into it. But yeah, then I think the 4 of you should make a determination as to who you think is the best qualified person.
So I have a little bit of a different opinion. I'm not a big fan of appointment, because it's the one thing that the people get to choose. But I do know that our charter does say that council has the power, shall they choose to do an appointment or not. For me, because our qualifying period is so close, it's like right around the corner, and we do have 1 resident that's already filed for that seat. I have toyed with the scenarios. If it stays at 1 person for that seat, and we pass the qualifying period, then there is no election. That person essentially gets the seat. I would rather hold off and see what happens at the end of the qualifying period, because if it's just 1 person, then I would say the residents didn't challenge that person that seat, therefore the residents would be telling us, we like that person, we should appoint that person to give them a head start maybe. So I'm kind of really leaning towards let's wait, or even if we accept applications, and hold them until the end of qualifying period to see if we're left with 1 candidate or 2 candidates. And that's kind of where I'm at. If we end up with 2 or 3 candidates, or however it ends up turning out, again, there will be an election, the people get to choose, then maybe we appoint someone from the application pile to fill those 5 months. And again, for me, with my experience up here, we have had much heavier items where we really, really need 5. I know that we don't have any big contracts that we're approving in the next 5 months, and we already had a development come through that's been voted on, so that's done. I don't know what would be coming to us that we would absolutely need 5, so I kind of really hesitant because of the qualifying period is so close. I would like to consider if we just wait for appointing someone at the end of the qualifying period to see what happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's actually a good idea.
Because there's like 100 different scenarios this way it could go.
And then, so if there was only 1 candidate at that point, and we appointed them, then they wouldn't need to go through all of the steps that you otherwise would.
Well, there's only 1 candidate, and
Currently.
Lori will correct me if I'm wrong, and we finish the qualifying period, and that candidate is officially qualified. There's no one challenging that person. And then there is no election, so that person in March will be sworn in. So it's possible, if we decide to do an appointment and we only are looking at 1 candidate coming in, would we not consider that candidate then? But again, I don't know until it's like 45 days or so to our qualifying period. For me, it's so close in the timeline. When Mr. Johnson left, we were left with quite a bit of time. And there's another municipality that they were just left, and they have like 1.5 years left on that seat. So I totally get, you need someone, you need all 5.
We won't swear this new person in until the April meeting because of the election.
Unless we as a group decide to appoint, and that's only if
Let's
there's
say,
1
but-
candidate,
But that's my concern of if we have multiple applicants and there's an election, that we are then sitting with a panel of 4 for the November, the December, the January, the February, and the March meeting, because this person won't get sworn in until April because of the timing of the election and our meeting.
And I get that. That's why I'm thinking, if the majority up here is thinking of appointing, could we consider holding applications and see what happens at the end of the qualifying period? So if there's 2 people or more running, there is an election, we could make the choice to appoint someone for the remaining months to fill that seat. Because there will be an election, we'll have to wait till March. I just really like to kind of see what happens at the end of that qualifying period.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth because it's not, it's not always great to govern with 4, but we are extremely close to qualifying. We're really pretty close to an election. It is a presidential primary, so like people are gonna show up to vote, right? Whereas when it's not, the voter turnout isn't that great. So we're gonna have really good voter turnout too, which I think is a good thing that we should, be part of the consideration. I don't want to eat my words one day, but I do feel like we have a council that does work well together. We've been able to compromise. We are not a hostile council. I don't think we get in positions too often where we're, at an impasse. So I do take that, like I said, I don't want to eat my words one day. That changes, but I do think we'd be able to work together in that situation. I think there's a lot to be said to having the residents being able to choose. So I am probably more in favor of leaving it open. And your idea of waiting until qualifying, that's a good idea too. I don't know if I'd want to even open it up for applications until qualifying period though. I'm trying to think of how, like, just kind of.
I'm kind of toying with that idea. Like, when would we open it for applications? Because the timeline for the village clerk to advertise for applications, receive them, and then council gets them to review them, then we have to sit and have a meeting, and that's all time consuming by the time we get to that. Even if we started that now, that probably won't even happen until after qualifying period. So that's why I'm trying to just think, could we just wait a little bit to see what happens with qualifying period? It's right around the corner, and then maybe we can make a better educated decision based on what our scenario is. Do we have an election? Or do we have a candidate that's the only candidate that filed for that seat?
Frank, you're here for the October meeting, and you're here through 10/31.
10/31.
So if qualifying ends the 21st, so we would really miss, we'd be at a council of 4 in November. I just hesitate because our legal counsel said there's a lot of codes that are being written that to comply with things from coming down from Tallahassee. And I feel that our village is owed having a full council. There's an incomplete council in a neighboring community, and there's a lot of issues going on. No, we don't have that type of issue presented before us at this moment, but I hesitate to have just 4 through our April meeting. So I would agree with let's wait and see what happens for qualifying, but I would even let those applicants know that we don't have to select. I believe we should collect applications. And Lori, I see your point of why appoint somebody for 3 months that won't be there. But I do think that we should see an application pool. And maybe we do that at the November meeting, or maybe November 1 through December 1. And at our December meeting, if we can post, I don't know what the requirements are as far as timing to post, because if we're appointing someone, we can appoint, or we can just get applications and appoint. But getting applications and appoint during the month of November, and then in the December meeting, we'll have we'll know November 21st, but at our income November 21st, we'll kind of know what we're doing. But I don't want to wait getting them, because then come December, and then what if something is big in January, February, and March?
Well, that's why I'm toying with the idea of, if we don't wait to collect them, but kind of put it like we start collecting them, but also say we might not appoint, we need to.
I think, the application process, we can word such that, there's no guarantee that the council will appoint.
I'm fine with prepping us. We're trying to prep to make sure that we have a full council, essentially, one way or the other. So yeah, our people have a full voice. I'm just, again, that timeline is just so unique
So
right
I
now.
know, it's so close. That's why it's tough. Like, if you have a year plus, it's like no brainer, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I've
seen other scenarios.
What's qualifying date? I can't remember.
7th through the 21st of November.
But
And
you-
then,
but-
and I do want, just keep in mind, we can call a special council meeting, so we don't have to wait till, I mean, I'm very sensitive to everyone's time, but we don't necessarily have to wait to, December council meeting to take action. We could call a special meeting. What's the notice requirement on special meetings?
Oh,
I mean, you can do both. I mean, there's kind of what Rick's implying is you could open up the application period. You could say, again, council's taking applications, just as you said. We don't necessarily have to appoint anybody. But if you do that in advance or coinciding with your qualifying period, when you get to the end of the qualifying period, you'll know, do I have more than one person or not?
Yeah.
And then if you've only got one, that person obviously I would think would be applying as well. Now you can act immediately. If you've got more than one person who's filed for a candidate, you still have the same issue that you brought up with Lori, which is you've got more than one, council's gonna have to make a determination, but I kind of agree with Rick. You got, from November 15th, you're gonna have 5 meetings. And while there may not be, it's not even that the council is contentious. You may have an issue where rational people can just simply disagree.
Oh, for sure.
And so you could end up with a situation where you're 2-2 on something that really should be moving forward. So, again, I know with Councilman Johnson leaving, a couple times I think that created some challenges for us. So I think, again, people do deserve to have 5 people up here. And however you massage this, to have that outcome in a reasonable fashion, I think makes sense.
So are we all in agreement to let the qualifying period play out?
Yeah, maybe we accept applications through
Yeah.
November 21st at the end of qualifying.
I like that.
Assuming that procedurally, it sounds like we can do this, where we collect applications with no guarantee of appointing anybody.
Yeah,
Then
we
I
don't have
agree.
to, and we just make clear that we may not appoint, there may be.
Right.
That seems like the best of both, that's the easy route.
We don't know, I don't know why we wouldn't appoint, but there could be a reason why.
Yeah.
Based on qualifications or things like that.
And I do want to clarify for anyone that's listening that is considering maybe applying for appointees. If council chooses to appoint someone, that seat still expires in March.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you get to take on the next term. So if we end up with 2 candidates, and let's say hypothetically we don't end up appointing one of those and it's somebody else, that person finishes in March. And then whoever gets elected in March takes the that seat. I had that question come to me by my resident. I just want to make sure that's clear.
So, and see, this is why I go back to letting the election run its course.
Right.
And I totally do agree with we don't want to be a stalemate up here. And I do agree, even a rational council that works together can still at the same time, be in an impasse. But say you have a couple people qualify and we appoint one, I feel like that kind of gives that person a shoe in. So this is really tricky, in my opinion, since we're so close to an election. I mean, is waiting to qualifying even really a good idea at that point? If we say multiple people do and we appoint someone.
Well, I just don't want to appoint someone before the qualifying period, because by chance, if it's just one person that ends up qualifying, that person essentially gets the seat in March. There is no election.
Well,
So I don't want to appoint someone and then a month later.
They're elected on, right.
Right. I don't want to appoint someone to the seat, and then end of November, that person basically just earned that seat because there's no one challenging it. We're going to hang on to someone for 4 months when we have someone that basically was chosen by the people.
Yeah. So at that point,
It's
if I
fun
understand
to-
this correctly, if there was just one candidate, we could appoint them in November, December, as opposed to waiting.
If
all the
it's
way
just
to-
one
if it's
candidate
just
left.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they would still have to go through the formal
Yeah.
election
That's why I'm really
process.
stuck with this timeline.
Yeah.
But my point is, if say 2 people qualify and we pick one of that,
I don't know about, that
that's why I'm
seems-
I think that gets really tricky if we do wait to qualify. So I'm like, the
Well,
wheels are spinning.
And you can end up dividing 2-2 on that issue too. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think you do want
True.
to wait until the qualifying period is over before you appoint somebody. And you're right, if there's only one person,
That makes it easy.
they basically won the election because it was uncontested.
Right.
If you have more than one person, you're right, you're going to have to make the best possible judgment you can. And I agree with you, Molly. Sometimes when somebody's already in the seat as an incumbent, that can give them a little bit of an advantage, but.
It can be difficult, yeah.
But on the other hand, again, as Rick said, you're gonna have 5 months otherwise, where you only have 4. So you have to weigh the pros and cons of, is it more valuable to have 5 and maybe have to stick your neck out a little bit if you have more than one qualifier? Or can you live with 4 and just say, let's just wait for the election? That's a judgment.
I
you
mean,
guys
we're
will
going to have
make.
5 meetings. I mean,
I know.
Patrick and I were sworn in 6 months ago. This is our 6th meeting. A lot has gone on in 6 months. When you look back from April, what we've been through, and I'm just concerned. And I understand. Well, does that give somebody a leg up if there's 3 and 1 gets appointed? But I think we've been very consistent in how we voted. At least it wasn't close. There might have been some 4-1s, but you don't know what's going to come up. And I just feel that we should at least go through the process of collecting and being very upfront with those people. And I don't want to put that onus on our clerk, but say, listen, the council may or may not appoint someone. So if you're filling this out, just know that your application, your name will be made public, your applications will be given to the council, but they still may not, you know, and for whatever those reasons are, we can choose to disclose that at a meeting or not. But I hate not to have something and then all of a sudden something comes in monumental, or that, like you said, we might just all disagree.
And I
think our
it's-
residents they're owed a full council, I really believe
And
that.
I think it's fair to state to anybody who's considering that if you're not going to go through the qualifying process and qualify for the ballot, that is a consideration the council's going to look at. So if you choose not to do that, the odds are you're not going to get an
Right.
appointment.
So would everyone say that they're kind of on board with collecting applications and considering appointment at the end of the qualifying period?
Yes.
Yes.
So considering, so we're not locked into yes we are or no we're not.
Yes.
Is that? I mean, I'm open to leaving it open too,
Again-
but I had a feeling.
Well, and even then again, you don't have to appoint it.
I know.
No,
I'd rather
exactly.
keep
That's
it
why we
open. I
keep
do
it.
not want to commit to appointment. I really want to see the outcome of the qualifying period. Because I've seen it before in our village. There's a lot of people that say they're going to run and then they don't. And then we end up with 1. And I was just hoping we had someone running, not get an empty seat, because we absolutely need someone to file for that seat. So again, I feel better if we waited
I think we have, given the
to
short
make the
timeframe,
decision to appoint or not to
Yeah.
appoint till after the
I agree.
qualifying period.
Yeah, I'm like, Laura, to with
Prep
your suggestion,
for it.
I'm good with that. And as long as we're willing as a council to have an emergency meeting if we feel that it's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it's not 8 a.m., I'm good.
So 7 a.m. will work for you?
We'll find the time, probably afterward. We'll figure it out. Let me take public comment. Good. All right, any public comment? Mr. Bradford?
Unless you have a form for the people that wish to apply for the interim position until election in March of 2024, they're not necessarily going to see that you have these provisos that you talked about, you know. May or may not appoint, and the last one that Frank said. So maybe you do something on the website so that they send in an email saying, hey, I'm interested, attached to my resume. Somehow you gotta let them know
Oh, yeah.
what those provisos are. And I didn't hear that in the motion, so I just.
I said the word consider. Consider
Well, this is a
appointing.
workshop, so we're not
Oh,
technically
okay.
voting on
I'm
anything
sorry.
tonight. But if we have consensus, I checked with the village attorney beforehand, we can move forward if there's consensus up here.
I think so.
So, any other public comment?
I would just hate to see anyone out there that may possibly be listening and be interested be discouraged from even trying to seek the appointment. If they're looking at this like, no, you're gonna wait for this, whoever has applied, it almost looks like that's where you're going with this one person. I don't wanna discourage anybody from seeking the appointment. Even if you don't decide to appoint, they should somehow, I don't think a whole lot of the residents know this is even going on, to get the word out that there is going to be a seat open. There is a possible appointment situation. If be sure and get your name and application, whatever you do, and not in any way discourage that process. If only one person qualifies and does the work to qualify, that's fine, but that's down the road. That person still isn't going to be seated until April as that electee. You know, so that's the way I'm
Yes,
looking
ma'am.
at this.
Well-
We're almost discouraging people from applying for an appointment position by saying that since we already know we have one applicant or whatever you've
Right.
got, it just kind of looks clear to me.
It's okay. I get what you're
I
saying.
was part of a council that was only for a
Uh-huh.
long, long time.
We weren't.
It's not a good situation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's.
Can
what this
let me see if there's any other public comment? No? Yes.
Hello, my name is Levying, and
Oh, there's no mic up there tonight.
Oh, yes,
I
I'll just
apologize.
project
Can you
it.
speak louder?
Hello, my name is Levying, and I'm running for seat 1. And in that meeting, I offered to volunteer for the appointment just because I agree there should be all the seats filled. But I'm happy to help whatever you guys need. If you need me to spread the word so that to encourage others to get in there, absolutely. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other public comment? Okay. Because of what Mrs. Watkins said, that is why waiting until qualifying, especially if you get more than one person, that's why I'm still I don't know if that's the best case to wait until qualifying period, because I think we can get in a sticky situation there. I kind of feel like we take applications and point out or or just wait till election. I think waiting until qualifying can just get us in a very sticky situation. Even if just one qualifies or multiple, I don't know. I just don't feel like that's the best route. I do understand your point, but I think it's like now or March. The in between,
But I don't think it discourages anybody. Pat, I heard what you said, but I wasn't really following the logic there, because yes, there's one person who's filed to run for seat 1, but others could. I don't think there's any discouragement. I think what I was hearing was, if only one person filed and they ran unopposed, they would, in essence, at the end of the qualifying period, for all practical purposes, they are elected now and will take the seat in April. But the council would then be free to appoint them earlier, and they would then be an appointment until they occupy the seat in April as the unopposed candidate. But if they get more than one person who applies, and qualifies, then the council would have to make a determination if they wanted to do an appointment at the end of the qualifying period. So if you had 3 people qualify, council would have to make a determination: do we want to appoint one of those 3? So we have an operating council of 5 from now until April, because they won't get sworn in until April. You can't swear them in March. You have to wait until the following meeting. So you've got almost a 6-month window there. Or do you wait for that? Or do you say, you know what, we'll stick our necks out a little bit, and it's our best judgment that, yeah, we do want to operate with 5, and we'll make a decision on whoever that might be out of the pool, if there is a pool. So that shouldn't, to my mind, that shouldn't discourage anybody. No more than if somebody files for the seat, are other people going to be discouraged because there's somebody already filing for it? Well, if I really want to run for council and I want to participate in the council, I'm not going to let that discourage me if I were the one who wanted to run. You know?
But I think, what if there are people that have the experience and would like to help the council and assist, but don't necessarily want to apply and qualify for the seat? Then I think you are, because what if we have applications? There's people that we waited to qualify, so there's people that qualified, but there's people that didn't want to run for the seat but want to, just help the village and provide their services to fill the seat for the time being, and then we could still have an open election. So I can see the discouragement if we're waiting to qualify. We're basically saying you only can apply for this seat if you are definitely going to be running in March. I feel like it sends a weird message.
And I understand what you're saying there, and I guess my reaction to that would be that, as Rick said, you guys have been on the council 6 months, and you've seen all the things that have happened. If you have somebody come onto the council who's not been attending these meetings and has not been an active participant in the village, they're going to come on cold. So they're going to, just by the time they get their bearings, they're going to be off if they had chosen not to qualify and not to run. So there could be an exception. So, for example, if you had a former councilman like or mayor like Ms. Watkins or Abby that said, I want to come in, or Vince, and I want to come in and serve for 5 or 6 months, but I don't want to continue on after that, that would be maybe a special situation. But barring something like that, to me, if you've got somebody who wants to come in and do it for 5 or 6 months and is willing to get their feet wet and kind of get comfortable with the role, they should want to do it for the next 2 years after that. If they're only going to serve for 5 or 6 months, and again, they haven't been actively involved in the village and in these deliberations previously, I'm not sure if that's the right answer. Like, so unless you've got a special situation.
Right, but we don't know, right? We haven't
Well, you don't.
advertised this yet. So I think we don't know that situation could pan out where it's someone that knows, pays attention, and just wants to help us, and then we still have the open election in March. Could that happen? Yes. Could that not happen? Yes, that could not happen too. But we don't know because we haven't opened this up, so we don't know the interest. And so that, again, I say, well, we're kind of doing this in the middle thing and waiting to qualify, and I kind of feel like it's like make the decision now to take applications or wait till the.
But if you take the application here, okay, so kind of following through on that scenario, right? If you take the applications and you have somebody like a former council member or former mayor who says, I'd like to serve for 5 or 6 months, and you have multiple candidates who qualify to run for the seat, that, again, the council has discretion here. That might be a situation where you say in your judgment, you say, you know what, we're going to appoint this person for the 5 or 6 months because they've got the experience and the knowledge, and they can fit right in and they can contribute right away. And then we'll have that election. So maybe that's a situation you depending on who does what to whom, maybe that is a possible scenario if you've got more than one candidate. On the other hand, if you only have one person who files and qualifies, then you're back to what Lori described, which is now you've got somebody who's saying, hey, I'm going to serve, I've already won because I'm uncontested. Let me get started 5 months earlier. That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, and I just kind of have to wonder, like, going back to if it's going to discourage people from seeking appointment. I mean, I know we don't know how it's all going to shake out, but I guess I would hope, and this kind of goes to what Frank and Rick are saying, is I would hope anyone outside of this very unique scenario where there's a past mayor or council member, anyone who is seeking appointment, I would want them to be serious enough that they're also seeking to qualify. That may not happen, and that's why this is so hard. So, but if it's someone who's serious enough to seek appointment, and we're worried about that, the fact that there might just be one qualified candidate from it discouraging that, then I kind of want to see the people who are seeking appointment also wanting to qualify. It's a big commitment, but I just don't. The chances of us getting that unique scenario, I mean, unless you guys think you're going to do it, probably pretty slim. I don't know, but that to me is where you could justify it because you're bringing in someone who understands the procedural, and because having 4 can be dangerous, but having a 5th, I don't want to say uneducated. It took me at least 4 meetings to 2, 3, 4 meetings to really get the comfort level to really speak up and really talk more. So but
there's all the information you get too from all the backup and everything. You really gotta.
Yeah, for sure. But there is a learning curve here, and that it takes almost all of that 6 months to really feel like you're okay. I got this now. And I don't know. I think I would like to see anyone seeking appointment. I would hope they're serious enough about the commitment that they're also looking to qualify. But
I think the most qualified applicant should be chosen. If that person, for whatever works in their personal or professional life, can only do it for 5 months, and that's their stewardship and that's their gift to the village, then that's awesome. But I think the most qualified person should be selected, not the person that can, because we don't know what their situation is if they decide not to run. They might just say, listen, I'm better off running in 2 years, but let me see what it's like now. And I think the most qualified person is what I'm looking to select. And we can do applications now, cut it off at November 1st. We can take it through qualifying period. We can wait to see who applies now and then make a decision after qualifying. But I'm not so concerned about somebody that is not ready to commit to qualify, because there's multiple reasons why somebody may not. I want the most qualified person for the 5 months, because we've got, our legal counsel said they're going to be coming back from, he's meeting with every department. So there's something from every department in Village Hall that we're going to be forced to look at. And so the most qualified person should be the person that can vote on that, even though they may not be the one that gets appointed or gets voted in or decides to run. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with the most qualified person. I think that is in the best interest of the residents, whether they want to run. Like you said, it might be someone that has is the most qualified and they truly just want help. Or, and like you said, it is a huge commitment. Maybe someone who is qualified sits in the seat for a bit and realizes, whoa, this is way too much for me. I mean, that's a unique opportunity, but, you know, and then maybe that's not the best person.
There's
They
young
decide
kids
they
at
don't
home,
want to.
There's work,
But,
there's all these different scenarios.
but I think, you know, if again, I sound like a broken record, but if we wait till qualifying and there's multiple people that have applied, I don't know that it's right for council to give someone who's qualified a shoe in, because then those other people might want to not, they might, you know, pull from the race.
Yeah.
That's a real, and then to me, I almost think that's like a disservice to the residents.
Yeah.
So
Under that scenario, I agree. I think if we have multiple candidates that qualify, the only way I would want to appoint somebody at that point if it was this unique scenario, because then you're not, I mean, to me, that prejudices one way or the other. There's no way that doesn't hurt those other potential candidates. It's just, they're already here and, you know, it's, so I think if you have that unique scenario where a past council member or mayor is seeking appointment and not seeking to become a candidate in the qualifying period, then there's nothing, no one's saying we can't appoint that unique person and then wait till April and then we're, you know, right back where we were. But I think the fact remains, unless we open it up for applications, we're not even gonna know if anybody's interested. So that's the tough part is,
I have a
we might not get any applications, we have no idea.
right,
So,
exactly.
which is always possible.
So I would ask Jeremy a question. With it a person we appoint, can we put it to where it's only appointed for the remainder of the term? So someone running couldn't apply because
You can't put any additional restrictions on than what we have for a regular council member.
I am not comfortable if we had 2 or 3 candidates running for a seat. I am not comfortable with council choosing one of them.
100%
To a point.
agree.
That
Yeah,
is-
that's, I think we all agree.
I think
on
that is a really,
That's some bad optics and it's also just unfair.
That's why we
so
can't wait to qualify.
I ideally, again, I don't like appointment for this reason. I think it's solely should be always on the residents to pick who sits up here. But if we are leaning towards appointment, oh my gosh, I mean, I would really, for me, would have to just be for that short term. I can't, if we end up with 2 or plus more candidates, I can't choose one of them to be up here. Because that's basically telling the residents which one we think that should be
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah.
Well,
it
but
is.
even if we decide to take applications now, instead of waiting until the election, we can still have that same language that this doesn't guarantee that council's gonna
Yeah.
appoint.
Can I jump in front of the
Please.
wagon real quick so we don't circle
I would
again?
like
We
to
just
keep
leave it
talking
out.
in
This is a
circles.
big one.
So-
I mean, this is not anything. to be
Let's keep in
lightly-
mind that, you know, this, we don't take a vote, so if we don't have a consensus moving forward, we would have to bring it back for a vote on that process, and we could do that at the next council meeting. I think, you know, and I know we've talked about 1,000 different scenarios on how to make this work, you know, I'm gonna clear up the application process. You know, we already have one established for all of our boards and committees with planning and zoning. You know, if we started taking applications, we could put whatever note we wanted on when they turned in the application, the clerk could remind them it may or may not happen. I think, you know, another process that we've saw and we've talked about is, you know, you guys can all just go out and find 2 or 3 people that you think would be good fits and then come back and have the discussion, and maybe they all align. Maybe there's one person and all of your guys' top 2 or 3 people that do it, and you maybe don't have to do the application process, but just the best qualified people that you guys know in your mind that are willing to serve, understand what you're looking for. That's another process. So just trying to stop us from circle wagging. Maybe there's another scenario that we can talk about, or just make sure you guys understand we do need to have a consensus tonight. Otherwise, we'll have to vote on it.
I say we leave it open. I'm going back to my original route. I say we leave it open.
Is there a
collect applications.
is there a specific time frame that we
Yeah.
have to allow for applications, or
So we could
like
wait
if we
till,
open it up, we could vote next?
but then,
Yeah, I mean, so I think you want to, you know, give a week or 2. I mean, you want to leave it open for what we feel is a good enough time. I mean, but it could be 3 days, could be 2 weeks, could be 2 months. I mean, but I think, you know, everybody knows that process and that marketing thing. You know, too long is, you know, kills the process, but too quick and you don't give them time. So, you know, I think a couple-week process is reasonable, and that's what we do with most of our other boards. It's always usually a couple weeks to get it out there.
So our next council meeting's at 12, right?
Yeah.
So if we say we come to a consensus tonight, we would have I mean, it'd be 2.5 weeks basically for application.
If you
That's
wanted-
why we
if
wanted
you-
to have that conversation tonight, because if we were gonna open the application process up, the timing of it worked where you'd have it open for, a few weeks, and then, I think we'd have to have it closed by like the 2nd, because then we have to prepare the agenda and have, you guys have those in the background, so, and so that's why the timing of it was tonight, is that way we could try to get it for the October meeting, if you guys chose to go that route. If not, I mean, we can leave it open longer, and then, wait until a future date, so we can, look at the qualifying, however you guys decide to do it.
And we could, I mean, like I said, we could call a special meeting, the week of October 16th or 23rd if we felt we wanted to give like another week, if we go down that road.
Would you want to open it that early, or do you want to wait till like November 1st and have it open at the same time the qualifying period's going on? Because then at the end of the qualifying period, you could have it open from November 1st to November 14th. The qualifying period ends the 21st. Now you know, do I have more than one candidate?
I think we've all agreed we don't want to wait for qualifying. Did I misread that?
To collect applications?
We will want to do it before qualifying, because if multiple people qualify, it does not, we don't think it's best for us to choose if multiple people
No,
qualify.
I understand, but what I'm saying is if you open up the application process November 1st, and qualifying opens what, November 7th?
7th or
Correct.
21st.
And if you close both processes at the same time on November 21st, now you know, do we have more than one qualified candidate? If you only have one, what I heard everybody saying is you're inclined to probably seat that person pretty quickly. If you have more than one, what I heard you say is you don't want to choose from the pool of candidates, but you may have an applicant that you say, okay, they can serve for the next 5 months. So I guess from a time frame standpoint, you would want to see if you have more than one person qualified before you actually made an appointment. Because if you only have one, you're going to appoint that person. If you don't, if you have more than one, you may look to see if you have an individual that has got the qualifications and the interest and the time to serve for that intervening 6 months. That's kind of what I heard you guys saying.
I'm not in favor of keeping it open. I want to fill the spot. I feel our residents deserve that. After hearing some of the discussion, I'd be in favor of or support an application timeline of October 1st through October 31st. And the most qualified candidate has the ability to be appointed. We don't know if that person is going to run because qualifying hasn't applied yet, but our system allows for us to know if somebody has gone through that exercise of opening up a campaign account and filed the oath of office, the oath of candidate. So I want to fill it. I want to see a pool of applicants, and if we can do it 10/1 through 10/31, then after that we decide if we want to move forward with an appointment. But that doesn't put anybody in a position to feel like they have to apply or have to qualify.
Yeah.
The most qualified candidate, if we do it now or we do it in December, the most qualified candidate should be selected. But if we appoint before qualification, then we don't know who's qualifying. We might know who's opening an account, but that doesn't mean they're going to show up and qualify between November 7th and November 21st.
But then does that get back to the concern that you had about appointing somebody who then may choose to qualify and 2 or 3 others qualify? Now you've already appointed that individual, so you've already given them a leg up.
We don't know that because they haven't qualified.
I know you don't. I guess what I'm saying is,
to wait till the-
I'm
yeah.
saying, I'm just
Yeah.
hearing what everybody said and what
Yeah.
all their concerns were. It seems to me that if you wait until you've got your applicants, you've got your qualifying period, everything ends on November 21st. As Molly said, you can call a special meeting right after that, and if you've only got one, you can move forward with that person. If you have more than one, you don't. Maybe you choose the most qualified applicant, or you choose nobody at all. I agree with you. I think it does make sense to try and fill it and have 5 effective council members up here, but that would, because if you don't want to give an advantage to one person, it seems like you don't want to appoint anybody
Until you know.
know.
Yeah. So that means we would just have one meeting with 4 council members if we waited till November 21st?
It would be October 12th, correct?
Just that one? I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense to me, but.
Be November.
End of November,
well,
yeah.
So 2 meetings.
November 9th.
Technically, I'm still,
You're here for
but
October.
I'm gonna be in Europe though.
So you'll
In
sort
October,
of-
I won't be able to Zoom.
Okay.
But yes, I'll be here for the 2 October workshops. I just won't be here for the regular council meeting.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just, we're up here to make tough decisions sometimes, and this is a really tough one. And I think this is one where I hope we can come to a consensus tonight, because I think to delay this isn't good. I think we all agree on that. And, you know, I think we just, I personally think we need to make a decision, open applications, do it now, or wait till election. The in the middle, I don't think really benefits everyone, and I do think it could discourage people from applying, you know, to qualify, and it could, and then again, if we have multiple, then if we wait, I feel like, and we end up giving someone that did qualify the seat, to me, that's a bad look. I think it's a shoo-in for that person. The other people might pull out of the race. I don't think we should get in the middle of that. I think we're up here to make decisions. I think we should be able to make the decision tonight. We appoint someone, but we're doing it now, or we wait. The in the middle wishy-washy, I don't think is good for us or for the residents.
Mayor, when you say appoint now,
Yeah, who would that
what
be?
do you?
Take up, like, open up applications, and I would pull it, maybe 3 weeks would be enough, so maybe we would
Okay.
call a special meeting like October 6th that week. Open it up for 3 weeks for applications. So like I said, do it now, make the decision, or wait. The in the middle, I just think can get very, very messy for
So
us.
special meetings somewhere at the end of October.
I agree with you, Mayor. It could be a tough decision, and it may or may not give somebody a leg up. I don't know. But I'm not looking at what are the optics come March 19th. I'm worried about what happens in our meetings in November, December, January, and February. So I'm in favor of what you're saying, open it up now. Keep it for 3 weeks from now through the 3rd week in October, and we get together for a special meeting right then, and then we can appoint, or just said, well, there's not qualified applicants, and we're just gonna
Yeah, we'll
Then we wait.
whistle past the
Yeah.
graveyard and hope we do well with 4. But I really believe we should put a 5th seat up here. I really do. I feel strongly about that.
So it sounds like we're all in consensus one way or another and start collecting applications as soon as possible. And then at least we'll know if there's even any interested applicants. If there aren't, then this is
We know there's
easy.
one.
Well, yeah, we got one, but she's also, you know, hopefully run to qualify, or she has put her name in for the actual seat. So I'm in favor of that. I mean, that to me works. I think there's a lot of ways to skin the cat in this scenario, metaphorically, of course. But I think that scenario works just as well. It's just, we're not gonna know until we know, so. So
Councilmember
I
Gambro?
will join you two on.
Opening it for 3 weeks for
Yeah.
applications, and then call a special meeting.
Sure.
So looking at the
I'm
dates,
fine.
maybe I'll open it up, having a special meeting on October 16th. So that will set a time frame, make sure everybody's in consensus of that.
Well, for Councilmember DeAmbro,
No, I listen, whatever you guys collectively decide, I'm fine with.
I'm
Vice
good.
Mayor?
16th.
No comment. No comment.
are you in consensus with what we're saying?
I don't mind collecting applications, not at all.
Yeah, I think the point is
I'm
we
fine
don't.
with the 3 weeks.
don't
I
have to
think
do
it
anything.
definitely needs to be advertised on all platforms and just be fully educated too that this is what's happening. This is to fill the seat till March because there may or may not be an election.
Yeah. How in-depth is the application process for appointment?
We just use the same one as our boards.
Just like-
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
Lori can probably talk to what's on there, but,
So it's a
Just
pretty
same one
quick
with attach a
process.
CV or something.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it talks about their interest level, what background they may have that might be applicable, those types of things, that we looked at it together at one point, but, it's not too
Yeah.
burdensome, but
Okay.
it also does give you guys a little bit of insight into the person, so. you
And
guys-
maybe, I mean, Jupiter just went through this. I don't know what their application looked like. Maybe if they even had one, maybe see what theirs looks like, so we can.
Yeah, well, we have a pretty good, I think we have a good process.
Okay, and October 16th, how does that look for everyone?
I'm available.
I'm available.
I'm available.
I might be.
You might be.
I don't have all my kids' schedules yet. Sports is kind of flexy depending on weather. I mean, it's open right now.
Okay, and if something happens, we can pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I work with kids, take lots of vitamin C, wash my hands, pray they don't get sick.
Consensus.
5:30 or 6, what time preference for everyone?
Either's fine for me.
Either's fine.
What
Did you say
time?
5?
No, I said either is fine.
Either
is fine.
I mean,
Yeah.
if we were gonna be discussing and reviewing applications, it could be,
Could be
I don't know, it
longer.
could be a lengthy one, so if everybody's agreeable to 5:30, it might get us
I
out
would
of
like
here.
it to be accessible to the public, so maybe people who are working by 6, or at least 5:30 if there's a Zoom link or it's streaming, or, I just don't want to do it too early. I want to make sure residents can.
Anytime, it doesn't make it, I'm
Let's do
available.
5:30.
Okay, so you guys have clear, we'll open up applications for starting the 25th through
Is that enough time, Lori?
the 13th, and then that'll give council the weekend to review we'd have to publish this agenda, how far in advance we have to publish our agendas.
It's usually the Wednesday before for a workshop.
This will be special.
Yeah, but I mean, same difference.
And then will this be blasted out on our social media platforms about that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so people, I mean, and then we'll obviously be talking to people who we think could be a good fit, I guess, so. I think it's plenty of time.
So we'll take applications the 25th through October 10th, and then that'll allow us to put everything together, and then have a meeting at 5:30 on the 16th
Cool.
of October.
Okay. Does that work for everyone?
Yep,
Sure does.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Third job.
Oh,
That
yeah,
is
every
no- I
year.
know. Today it's
I
my
think
third
it's,
job, in that order. but-